Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to start chapter number 12, that is Django URL patterns and views from the subject web frameworks. So these are the contents from the chapter number 12. That is, first one is designing a good URL schema, and second one is generic views. First, we will see the basic concepts regarding URL patterns, that is URL mapping. So here Django is a web application framework. It gets user request by URL locator and response back. So it is a web application framework. So it gets the user's request by the URL locator. We send the request to the Django application framework or web application framework by the HTTP request. We send that request through the URL locator. So it gets that request and responds back to that request. So to handle that URL, that is uniform resource locator, to handle that URL, Django.urls module is used by the framework. To handle that URL request, Django.urls, this is the module. This module is used by the Django framework. So here now we see that, let's open the file urls.py of that project and see here how that file looks like. If we are going to open that urls.py file, see here, it contains the content like from django.contrib import admin, from django.urls. These are the modules. Django.contrib, Django.urls. These are the modules. These modules are used by the framework. So from this module, import admin. From this module, we are going to import the admin, and from Django.urls module, we are going to import the path function. Okay. So now URL patterns. You can see here the path function. We are importing the path function from the Django.urls module. So see here, path contains the admin. That these are the attributes of that path function here, admin, and the uh, what we can say, this is the uh, root here, root for that path. Okay, so this urls.py file contains this contains, it contains the URL patterns and the path of that URL. So here Django already has mentioned like URL here from the admin here, see the admin here. Then the path function takes the first argument as a root of string here. The path function takes the first argument as a root or the regular expression here. You can provide the regular expression also. Then the view argument is a view function which is used to return a response to the user. That response in the form of template. Okay, then the Django.urls module contain various functions like here path function is there. So the parameters like for the path function is root, then view, then arguments and the names. So it is one of those which is used to map the URL and call the specified view. Here you can see that the root of the path function, then the here instead of that we can use the regular expression as well. Then this is the view for the what we can say view or the arguments or the name of that view here. So these are the attributes or the parameters for the path function. Then Django URL functions. So yeah, there are some commonly used Django URL functions are there for URL handling and mapping. So first one is path function here. See the path functions parameter root view arguments is equals to none or name is equals to none here. So it returns an element for inclusion in URL patterns. So here you can see the example like we have seen the use of that or example for the path function. Here you can see the path, then the root here, then here you can see the views dot index. This is the view and name is equals to main view. This is the name of that view. So this is the example of path function. Then next is repath, re underscore path. It contains the parameter root, view, arguments, and name. So it returns an element for inclusion in URL patterns. So it returns an element for the inclusion in URL patterns. See the example here, repath here regular expressions we are using here now. Then the view name, view and the view name. Then next function is include function. So include function having parameters module and the namespace. So it is a function that takes a full Python import path to another URL configuration, another URL config module that should be included in this place. So whenever we are going to use that include function, it takes a full Python import path to the other URL configuration. Then next function is register converter. See here, register converter. It contains the parameter converter and the type name. So it is used for registering a converter for use in path routes. So these are some functions that are commonly used for the URL mapping and handling. So now we are going to see one example that gets user request and map that route to call the specified view function. So here first step is create a function hello in the views.py file. This function will be mapped from the url.py file. Now we are going to create a function hello in the views.py file, and we are going to map that function from the url.py file. So here you can see the first file is views.py. So here from Django.shortcut, this is the module Django.shortcuts. So from Django.shortcuts import render. We are going to importing that render here. Then here create your views here. We have to create our views here. From Django.http we are going to import HTTP response and HTTP response not found. Then from Django.views decorators.http, from this module we are going to import that require HTTP methods. Okay, here now at require HTTP methods we are going to use that get method here. Now we are going to create a function here, define hello inside the bracket request. We are going to handle that request, or we are going to get that request from the get method here. Now what we are going to return here, return HTTP response. We are going to return that response here. See the body of that response method here, h1 tag. This is HTTP get request. Okay, here we are going to define the hello function. Okay, so this views.py file contains a function hello. Now we are going to map that function from the urls.py file. Now urls.py file contain here, see from django.contrib import admin. Then we have to import the path from django.urls, and we have to import the views from my app. Then now URL patterns. URL pattern consists of path admin, then path index, and now path hello. Okay, here this is the root and this is the arguments and this is the view. Here you can see that admin.site.urls. Then for the index here, path index, views.index, and we have created one function hello for that path hello comma views.hello. Here inside that views we have created that hello function. Now here we have, after creating that views.py file and urls.py file, we have to start the server and enter the localhost colon 8000 slash hello. After entering this URL to the browser, so this URL will be mapped into the list of URLs and then call the corresponding function from the views file. After entering this, it will call the corresponding function from the views file, because we have created that function in the views.py file, views file, and we are going to map that function from the url.py file. See here. Then so here in this example that hello will be map and call the hello function from the views file, and that is called as URL mapping. Then next one is Django URL patterns. So here in Django, views are Python functions which take a URL request as a parameter and return an HTTP response or throw an exception like 404. So in Django, views are Python functions that take a URL request as a parameter, and for that request it returns the HTTP response or it will throw an exception like 404. Then here each view needs to be mapped to a corresponding URL pattern. So after creating that view, it needs to be mapped to the corresponding URL pattern. So this is done via a Python module called URL configuration. We can map this by using Python module, that is URL configuration. See here, URL config, that is URL configuration. So here consider a project name by that project name be my project, then the Python module to be used as a URL configuration. It is the value of root underscore URL configuration in my project slash settings.py. So here by default this is set to my project.urls. So here every URL configuration module must contain a variable URL patterns, which is set of URL patterns to be matched against the requested URL. So these patterns will be checked in sequence until the first match is found, then the view corresponding to the first match is invoked. If no URL pattern matches, then Django invokes an appropriate error handling view. So we have to use that Python module, that is URL configuration for the mapping. So here including other URL configuration module. How to include here? See, it is a good practice to have a URL configuration module for every app in the Django. So this module needs to be included in the root URL configuration module. See here, from Django.contrib import admin. Then from the URLs module, now we have to include import here from Django.urls import path and include function. Now see in the patterns, URL patterns is equals to square bracket path, see here, root admin, then admin.site.urls. Now path include books.urls. So this tells Django to search for the URL patterns in the file books. Here see books.urls.py. So it will tell that to search for the URL pattern. Which URL pattern? books/urls.py. Then here, so it is sample code for that books, that is under the books urls.py. Here from Django.urls we are going to import path function, and from this we are going to import the views. Here see the URL patterns. That URL pattern consists of the path function path books, then it yeah, see the integer pk, then views dot book, this is the views dot book detail, then path books, then the string, then views dot book by, see the generation, then path books and views dot book index. So here we are going to specify some URL patterns here. These are some path here. So here you see the example like URL request to book crime, it will match with the second URL pattern as a result. So that Django will call the function views dot books by the name here by using this, by the second URL we are going to match the request that we are going to search for the particular book. Here see request is equals to the crime. So similarly that URL request books/25, it will match the first URL pattern. So books/25 means we are going to pass the argument as or URL as the integer here, so it will match with the first URL, and the Django will call the function views dot books detail here like this, request comma pk is equals to 25. So here integer and string are the path converters. These are the integer and string are the path converters, and capture an integer and string value respectively. So that integer and strings are path converter here, and that captures that integer and string values respectively. So here these are the some path converters uh, that are available in Django. First one is integer that matches 0 or any positive integer, then string that matches any non-empty string excluding the path separator, that is slash here. Then slug that matches any slug string, that is a string consisting of alphabet, digits, hyphen and underscore. Then next converter is path. It matches any non-empty string including the path separator. Then UUID, that is it matches that universal unique identifier. It matches universal unique identifier. These are the path converters in Django. So that's it for today's session. We will stop here. Thank you.